Hey everybody, come follow me time again. So this week we're in the Garden of Gethsemane reading about that, which you'll find this week's reading is in Luke 22 and John 18. Now the first part of Luke 22 covers the Last Supper, and we covered that last week, but predominantly in John. And you will find snippets of this in Matthew and Mark as well, just not as expounded, if that's a word, so not as much. And like Luke gives a really good narrative account of this, and John gives some sort of deeper, gritty goodness to it. So that's where we're at. So if you're reading Luke 22 and you think, hang on, we've already covered this, don't worry, it's all good. That's just the first part of it. The second part of Luke 22 is where we're going to look at this week. Still important that you read it because more than one account gives you better insight, right? Absolutely. So let's start in Luke 22. This is verses 31 to 34. And this is testimony versus conversion. And this is something that Jesus says to Peter that you think, what? Hang on a minute. So let's have a look at it and discuss. So this is when they're walking to Gethsemane. Remember, they did that. So Judas is left to go do whatever he has to do to betray Christ, which is not nice. But as Judas never wrote that down exactly what happened, we've only got third-hand accounts. So there we go. But in 31. So, and the Lord said, Simon, Simon, and remember that was Peter's name, Simon Peter. Behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat, because that's what happened to Judas. And 32, but I have prayed, or advocated, is the other word that you could use there, for thee, that thy faith fail not, and when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. And at that point you're going to think, but Peter should already be converted. He's a member of the gospel, of your gospel, Christ, and he's been pretty good at following. He was the one who wanted to walk on water. He was the one who is about to defend you, and offer to go with you to your death. He would die for you if that's what it took. But we're going to talk about the difference between converted and testimony, because right now he's got testimony. So Christ says to him, once thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. Go about and help them with that. And he said unto him, and this is Peter saying back, and he says unto him, Lord, I am ready to go with thee, both into prison and to death. As in, you've been talking about these things, we know it's going to be bad, I'll go with you. I will protect you, I will stand by your side. That's testimony. And Jesus says back to him, I tell thee, Peter, the cock shall not crow this day before that thou shalt thrice deny that thou knowest me. Now remember, this is either late at night, early morning, so it's dark. So they're waiting for sunrise. This is all kind of happening at night. Let's talk about, though, the testimony versus conversion, because we're going to talk about the whole protective instinct and the complete conversion in insight number 3. So this is in the walk to Gethsemane. Luke's gospel recounts the conversation between Jesus and Peter. So why say to Peter, when thou art converted? This was instruction for Peter to learn and grow from testimony to conversion. So what's the difference? Because at this point, Peter has been following Christ for about 3 years, is the head of the church, right, at this time. Well, Jesus is, but, he's going to be the head of the church. He already knows this. He's I'm going to leave this up to you to go do this. He's been training him to do this. He's seen all the miracles that Jesus has done. He's heard about these things. He's walked with them, learned a bit, has a great relationship with them, very protective instinct, incredibly loyal. So what's the difference between testimony and conversion? Because he's got an incredibly strong testimony. But converted is something else. So what is the difference? So a testimony is a written or spoken statement as to the truth of something. So at this point, Peter definitely could have done that. He would have written, he would have shouted it from the sky, he would have done skywriting, he would have done a dance about it if he could. If he knew how, that's what he would have done. He definitely knew that this was the truth. Absolutely, 100%. But conversion is the process of changing from one form to another. So what Christ is saying to him is, I know you have a testimony, but you're not yet converted. You're going to be, I know you will be, but you're not yet converted. Because of your strong testimony and because of who you are, and I know you well, I know you will be converted. Satan's wanted you to taken you away, but I've prayed on your behalf and given you that protection so that he doesn't. Unfortunately, Judas got lost to that, but that was all part of a plan as well. somebody had to. Yeah. Anyway, but conversion is the process of changing from one form to another. So Peter still hadn't quite changed, and you'll see that in the coming weeks when we study. You'll see his conversion start taking place. It starts taking place later in Luke chapter 22. It'll start taking place. But remember, and we'll talk about this when it comes up to it, after Christ had died and they'd gone and seen him resurrected, they went back to fishing because that's what they knew. They were kind of lost for a little bit, like, I don't know what we're supposed to do now. And Jesus had taught them this. But when you're got a strong testimony, but you're not converted, you haven't changed yet, you go back to what you know very easily because it's comfortable, and that's while you figure out the next move, the next thing to do, which is when Jesus comes and teaches them on the shore and says, do you love me? And Peter's like, of course I love you, Lord. And that's a great lesson, and we'll get to that in a few weeks. But this is the starting of that. So Jesus actually says to him, when you are converted, go about and strengthen your brethren. And Peter's thinking, but I'm ready to go die with you. And I'm there with you. Now that's having a strong testimony, and that's fantastic. And maybe that's where you're at. Or maybe you're not quite even there yet. But conversion is when you literally change not just your spiritual being, but your physical being, and your whole intentions and ideas and thought processes change. And it's not necessarily something that will happen in one event. It is a process. It would be like renovating a house and adding an extra wing, or like totally changing and like an older house or an older building to be this completely new thing. It is going to look different. It is going to feel different. And that's what converting is. And conversion to the gospel, you will see people that are converted. They look different. They behave different. They don't just have a testimony, because a testimony can be shaken. Conversion, you've already changed. You don't change that. It's a different thing, and it's something to aim for if you're not there yet. Now, I've had my own experience with conversion. I had a strong testimony most of my life, like from early on, very strong testimony. And going through what I did, still had a strong testimony, but you can have a strong testimony, still not be converted. Doesn't mean that you're not a bad person. Doesn't mean that you're evil or that you're not doing things Christ-like or anything. You can be a wonderful person, still not be converted yet. So those are through the things that I have gone through in this life. Conversion has happened, and this is what it's going to start happening to Peter, and we'll see this over the next few weeks. So have a look out for that and watch that. Testimony versus conversion. So we see this happen in Peter, and we'll talk about that in insight number 3. As I said, he would never deny Christ again, and for whatever reason, and we'll talk about it in number 3 because it gets very interesting there. So you can have a testimony and not yet be converted. So what are we aiming for? We're aiming for conversion. Is it an easy process? No, it's not. It is something that requires change, and change is not something that humans like a lot, is it? We want things nice and simple, the same way we know how to do them. It's like when your computer updates and you're like, what, where's that now? Or Instagram is a big one, and they do these updates all the time, and things just shift all over the place, and we're going to do it now this way, and then 3 months later, no, we're now doing it this way, and everybody's like, oh, what? Conversion. They convert, and they keep changing. So that's what it's like. It's frustrating. It's time and laboriousness. It's labor intensive to learn new things and to grow. But boy, does it pay off. Definitely when you're able to help others, which is what his admonition here was to Peter. When you're converted, go help others. So we can do the same, because we want people to be converted. Having a strong testimony is great. Having an awesome testimony is great. Conversion is a different thing. And something to aim for if you're not there yet, as I said. And if you are, then go help others. All right, that's first insight. Hang around for the second one. We're going to be talking about what temptation they're not supposed to enter into. We'll see you there.